minutes. Excellent. Okay, that being said, it is now 6:08, calling the meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Vice President Lorraine,
Here.
Commissioner Nats,
Here.
Commissioner Clue.
Here,
Okay, modifications, additions, and changes to the agenda.
We will take off number 2 off the agenda, the swearing in ceremony of newly elected commissioners.
Right.
That took place before the meeting.
Okay.
We can remove that one. Under business action items, approval to update signage for the Umpqua. On the remove list, we'll have Jess Groves, Joni Caldwell, and Olga Kiyama.
Okay, as well as Dean and John Stiven, correct?
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
And that's
Okay, thank you. Okay, public comment. Whichever,
Go up there.
draw straws.
Hello, my name is Carolyn, the president here in Cascade Locks. Certainly, I know you all. I just wanted to first make note and say thank you. Thank you guys for running this last May election. Y'all won by a landslide. And I know that concurrently, our whole community knows and knew that a recall election was happening at the same time. As of today, those results were certified, which is why Jess Groves and Joni Caldwell are not here. And I just want to say thank you to you guys for running, and thank you to the community of Cascade Locks for standing up for our community. It was again, another landslide there. I'm certain that you will keep yourselves accountable as public officials, and the community of Cascade Locks holds you to this standard as well. We expect our court commission to operate with the community in mind and not our own self-interest. Due to the recent recall, I highly encourage you, especially new commissioners, to ensure that the court operates in an environment that is free of harassment and retaliation. And that's not just at the commission level. I encourage you as the board of this organization to ensure that staff operates in an environment that is conducive for people feeling safe going to work and not feeling like they're going to lose their job if they speak up. So again, thank you. And I look forward to seeing your work as commissioners, and I appreciate, all you guys have done so far, and look forward to seeing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
thanks, Caroline.
Hello, my name is Denise Emily Baker, and I'm a resident of Cascade Locks. And I'm here to speak on behalf of myself and not in my role as a city councilor. So I want to also say thank you for running. I'm excited that you are here. Thank you, Brad, for re-applying for this position. I look forward to some strong dialogue between the port and the city as we move forward. I'm excited that the port has had a strategic plan this year, as well as the city. Our results will be coming end of this month or early August. So as we look at each other's strategic plans and we see how it is, and again, I speak for myself, even though I say we, I should say I, but we as the port and myself, moving ahead. I'm excited about the transparency that I think you will all bring, and that we may disagree and you may disagree internally. And I really appreciate that what I know of each of you and the general manager. I think that you will have some very learning, disagreeing conversations and respectful, and that's how we learn and grow. And I appreciate that you will look at the many sides of any issue and find the research prior to making decisions. Find the research, pay attention to those who are sharing the research so that we can change our minds. You can change your mind and what you're bringing to the city or what we're bringing to you. So I just want to welcome you and say, I'm excited. I know it's not going to be an easy road ahead. You have positions to fill, and whatever support you need on my behalf. I work in town remotely mostly. Please, I'm a volunteer, boots on the ground as well. And again, speaking on behalf of myself and not the city, and I welcome you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing this.
Mrs. Mayor.
Hello. Kathy Fallon, I'm going to speak as mayor. I just really want to thank each and every one of you for running and stepping up. I know it's a lot. It's a lot, and I know it's all volunteer. You'll go to lots of meetings. It's a big learning curve for the new ones. I just want to encourage you to take one step at a time. As a city, I'm really looking forward to collaboratively working. We may work on a air conditioner together now. Now that cat's out of the bag. But I'm really looking forward to working collaboratively, open, honestly, transparency. And I just cannot thank you enough for running. I know it's a big decision. So, but good things are happening and you guys all have my support.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. He has something.
He wants to go see the mayor.
Any videos? I don't know if I got anything online. Okay. All right. Presentations, legislative update on Mark Jones.
Commissioner, good to be with you tonight. I had Carrie Ann included the document in your packet. I don't think you got a chance to read that. It's a reprint of the article that came out in the Willamette Week a little over a week ago about our Bridge of God, and the title was, or is, or was, or whatever. As lawmakers start rolling out gas, Bridge of the Gods loses funding while the Grand Project claims it. Yeah, so I wanted to give you a summary of that and how it went. It's hard to explain exactly what happened because the folks that were responsible for the action are not necessarily being public about that, but nevertheless, things happen sometimes behind closed doors, and this is a good example of what happens sometimes in the legislative process in spite of all the efforts you put out. So all that to say, we were very disappointed in what happened with the lottery loan funding bill when it came out, as of about Thursday night of the, just prior to the last week of the session. For $6 million for our seismic improvement project and analysis project was there fully with the Burnside Bridge project, along with the River Bridge replacement project, and then the bill comes out on Monday morning. Lo and behold, the Bridge of the Gods, $6 million is struck out of there. There's $5 million for a project in the city of Bend that it had no legislative hearings, so it had no discussion in the transportation committee yet. In the lottery bond funded bill was one of 3 quote unquote transportation infrastructure projects. So that being what it is, we were very disappointed, but the legislature was also very confused about what happened as well. And I think that the committee chair or the joint for the transportation committee, who's quoted at the end of the piece, Susan McLean, said it best in Nigel Jake was the reporter said she's mystified by the funding for the Bend project. Her committee never discussed this project this session. I don't know where the Bend project got airspace, McLean says. We had no information about it. She's asked that she's already heard from unhappy supporters about the Bridge of the Gods project. But the key phrase is we'll keep working on the Bridge of the Gods project and hope to bring it back next year. So, though we weren't successful, I think we're as well positioned as we can be for the short February session that'll start the last week in January, and it's limited to 35 days. So our intent would be to be ready to go. And again, I've heard from many different legislators saying, I don't know what happened to this thing, but we'll make sure that you guys get taken care of in the next second. So just for the newbies, just reinforce that we've been asking both Oregon and Washington for $6 million each over the last couple sessions to fund a seismic analysis and upgrades for the bridge. There's never been any seismic study on that bridge. It was built back in 1926. We don't know what the soil conditions are underneath the bridge piers. We don't know the state of the concrete in those bridge piers. There are certainly bearings that are still the original bearings that in a seismic event wouldn't allow the bridge to go like this. All that vibration be, it wouldn't go with the flow well. So for $6 million, we can learn a lot, but we can also learn what the costs are going to be to strengthen that bridge enough to be able to handle the bike head crossing that we all want to have.
I know one thing, they didn't have 80,000-pound trucks back in
And have
2006 when they built the bridge, so.
So this project that we've been pushing for the last year or so would allow us to know that. And then we can go forth and really get serious about what needs to happen to really keep this thing going for the next 100 years, as well as provide a recreational link between Oregon and Washington. So all that to say, we'll be really busy over the summer months. I've already talked to Susan McLean about inviting her out here for a little tour. She's happy to do that. The Washington Joint Transportation Committee, I think I mentioned this the last meeting, will be taking a tour through the gorge. It's on the last week in September, and on September the 26th, they're planning to have a luncheon in Hood River, where the Hood River Bridge replacement will I should say again, this tour will consist of the committee chairs for transportation in the Senate and the House in Washington. They're also wanting to invite as many Oregon folks as we can have there as well. So it'll be a large group. But the point is, whoever's going to present about their project and where they're going, they want us to present as well about what our needs are, and then they want to come back to Hood River on their way back to Vancouver that day for a special tour and hands-on and so forth. So we're going to make sure that happens. We'll get as many legislators here as we can. We're working with Rep. Helfrich and Senator Bonham to get them to get as many of their colleagues out here as well. So we're planning for at least a full hour presentation. We'll have David McCurry, our bridge engineer, give a full assessment of what the project will entail. We'll talk about the port's plans, long-term plans. I think you've heard the 2030 plan referred to, where the port, we're hoping to get the port to where all bridge tolls stay with the bridge for maintenance and operation, which will allow us then to be able to also access federal funding for the bridge, which right now we can't because the port does use some of that toll revenue for other purposes and so forth. So, and to give them the full picture. But the other thing that really we want to drive home is that Washington has a short session next year too. Theirs is a little longer than Oregon. It's like 60-some days instead of 35 days. So the ask is going to be, if we can get a commitment out of Oregon for the $6 million in the February session, Washington will match that in your short session as well, and we'll end up with a full 12 million within.
So did they table their our ask for $6 million from Washington?
Yeah,
This
they're waiting for Oregon to step up first, and it's understandable.
I was guessing that.
The Oregon asset, why would Washington want to kick money into here when Oregon doesn't put skin in the game yet? So that's the whole point here. So hopefully we'll get that. Talking with Nate Stice, our regional solutions coordinator for Kate, keep saying Kate Brown, used to be Kate Brown, but now it's Governor Kotek. Hoping to get we know her transportation advisor well, hoping to get either her out here or perhaps Governor Kotek as well. She'll be spending some time in the boards this summer. And just to make sure that she fully understands the need of the project as well. So all that to say, that's where we're at with that. Any questions about the Bridge of the Gods and where we're at right now with that over the course of the next few months? And I know there'll be a lot you guys understand. There aren't any bad questions, so just ask them. So make sure we get there.
Yeah, that's
Brad's got a lot of experience with this, and he'll be a mentor.
yeah, it's been a long process, yeah, hopefully,
Well, and as I said,
in the next session.
Once you get something, once you're a project of record, then the stuff that happened in this little sleight of hand, I'll call it, doesn't happen because
Right.
they got the skin, the state has an obligation there. That's why we got, as part of getting Hood River the first $5 million for their bridge back in the 2017 transportation package. And it wasn't that much, but it got them started, and Washington's added to it now, Oregon's added to it more. So that's just how that happens. Once states have a commitment, they want to continue in that commitment to get a project complete. So once we can get something, I feel like we'll be in great shape moving forward after that. So what is that?
So it sounds like we won't have any sort of movement until February then?
That would be correct.
Is there anything we can do in the meantime?
Well, advocacy, yeah, no question about it. There will be advocacy. Good question. One of the things we've done in the past is to try to shine the light on the bridge. You all know that the Pacific Crest Trail goes across the bridge, and the PCTA is, they want this thing done more than anybody, i.e. the safe pedestrian crossing. So we've used the PCT days as a vehicle to try to get signatures from folks, sign a petition for whatever. We've directed this to some of our Washington legislators in the past, at the federal level, but this year it really needs to stay right here at the local level. So we'll be doing that again. We're talking to Clary from PCT about that last week about. They usually have a booth, the port has a booth, we can have signature, we'll decide who we direct those to, but that's just an example of the type of advocacy we can do.
Okay, it would be great to see what else we could do, some concrete examples, instead of just, we're gonna wait and.
Well, I won't be waiting, like I said, there'll be a lot of legislative work with legislators and getting them out here on site and having some tours with folks.
And we should get some people out here like maybe Jeff Helfrich, so.
Yeah.
Where's the money?
Yeah, it's on the list.
There you go. Yeah, PCT days may be a very good time
It
to
is a
try
good
to
time.
get some people out here and just raise awareness of how much Cascade Locks has going.
Right.
Is that 12 million only for the surveying, or would that include some of the upgrades?
It would allow for some physical improvements to be done. David McCurry, their bridge engineers, identified, I mentioned earlier, the bearings that the steel structure rests on top of the concrete pillars. Those are the same bearings that have been there, I think, since day one, and they make, that was 1926. Technology changed quite a bit, and they make bearings now that allow bridges to actually sway a bit in the event of a quake rather than just be rigid. So
Right,
some of that can be done.
okay,
There can be some gusset plate repairs and so forth. We know there's some of those that need to be improved anyway. So it's just kind of depending on what's left. It won't be a major structural upgrade, not at all. Don't want to give that impression, but it's
Right.
mainly analysis. There's just a lot of math and, engineering
it's
type
like that's a
stuff.
lot
that
of
needs-
money for just an analysis.
Exactly. Well, yeah, if this, if you look at what Hood River is gonna pay just for their engineering and, their design and stuff, it's tens of
Bridge
millions
business
of
isn't
dollars. Yeah, and that's before you put a shovel in the ground, so anyway. The other topic I want to bring up tonight is our Cascade Locks trail system. If you've been over in the Harvey Road area, you see the parking lot is nearing completion. That will be wrapped up sometime in this month. The contractor is pouring concrete out there today. Beautiful, nice big sidewalks going up and down the road. That's part of the port's skin in the game, if you will, or obligation for this newly permitted Cascade Locks trail system. That will be the western terminus of this new system. The Forest Service is going to be responsible for building a new parking area off of Wyeth Road as you head on out down the other way. But I met last week with Chris Bernhardt. He's with C2 Engineering. He's the one that the port has worked with in the past, and he's the one who will be doing the trail specs and trail development and helping us get this project out to bid. So again, just as an update, the port collaborated with the Pacific Northwest Trail Association on a grant with the Forest Service as well for the trail development grant, the Oregon Park and Rec. Got that a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now, for 149. Well, it's actually 190 some thousand dollars, but it's actually $149,000 in actual money. The rest of that is a match. NWTA has been involved with volunteers building 3 miles of new trail. Maybe you've seen some of that on their Facebook page. They've been posting about that. There's good work starting. They've been working on this eastern end and popping out into Wyeth. Then there's going to be, the grant's going to pay for 3 new miles of professionally built trail. It's going to start basically, if you know where the Wyeth Road goes up, not all the way to the top, but it's as you go up closer to the top on the right-hand side is where the trail is going to cut across there. But that stuff going back to the west, it's some pretty technical stuff because you start getting into some rocky stuff and kind of going up. That'll be 3 miles of new professional development trail. So he was out here last week reflagging that and taking some notes, and he'll finish his design for that, and we're gonna be hoping to be able to get this project out to bid sometime within the next month or so. The hope would be if we can get the contractor. It'd be wonderful if we could get a local contractor, because if we can, whatever we get, we'll get. Obviously, we're gonna put it out to bid, use our procurement system, but if we could get a local contractor, there'd be a high likelihood that somebody could get started in there this fall. We have windows of availability there because of some of the Forest Service requirements for some, I'm not sure which owl, if it's spotted or what, but there's a bird that they're trying to protect. So you can't be working after, say, I think it's the end of, I think it's like March 1 to July 8th or July, sometime in July, but the rest of the year is open. So obviously weather can be an issue. We don't know what the weather's gonna be like in the fall. We hope that obviously fire danger doesn't become another impediment, because sometimes the Forest Service shuts everything down and nothing gets done. But if we can get a contractor in there sometime late this fall, we could wait as long as they could, and we'll finish up in the spring. So that would be wonderful. But at the end of this, there will be 3 phases. This is phase 1. There'll be 2 more to go out. Each of these will be more expensive. There'll be, for instance, a brand new bridge over Dry Creek, which is part of it, which would be a prefab project. You bring in an helicopter, you set the thing down, that kind of thing. So you know those are not cheap. So $9. So the port is just a fiscal agent on this grant. We don't have any money we put out. We just use our accounting system and allow the monies to be cycled through here. So, and there aren't that many checks that we'll have. We'll have 1 contractor on this. We'll have a few other odds and ends maybe and so forth, but it's not that big of a burden. It's just that they needed a fiscal agent to partner with on the grant. So that's what we've done.
Hopefully we can get some grants. The port to date is actually put in quite a bit of money, 100,000 or more in getting it to this
Way
stage.
back.
Yeah, back.
Yeah, if you go back,
in the planning process.
like I talked about in the last meeting, I think it started back in 2005 on the process. That was, long haul ago. So that's good news. Chris is really, I think we'll get a great response. His real high contractor interest in helping out on this project. So lastly, I'll just share that I did some research on the state of the $2.4 million in lottery bond funds that the port was awarded initially in the 2019 session, but because of COVID, in fact, the lottery bonds didn't sell for a while because nobody was, there wasn't enough money in the kitty to sell bonds for. We had to go back and fight for that money again in the 21 session, and we got it. But the question I had was, how long a term do we have to work? How long is that money available? And have we in fact used some of that or not? Because there was some talk about at one point trying to use it to perhaps buy down the mortgage on flat 6 or buy down some of the mortgage on the Frame building and so forth. And nobody really knew exactly where we were, but I confirmed with DAS today that nothing's been drawn down on that. We have until March of 2025 for those funds, but just again, when you get money from the legislature like that for a purpose, there's always a specific framework for it. So this money is to construct buildings and upgrade and expand infrastructure in the Port of Cascade Locks Business Park. That's the bandwidth these funds can be used for. So we've talked about that, and it could come particularly in handy as the conversation about the port and the city partnering with upgrades to the city electrical system. This could be used for that. It could fit perfectly with the design or earmark that was from the sun. Again,
I'm sorry, you said 2.6,
2.4.
2.4.
Yeah, 1.4 million. That was a lottery bond that the port was awarded.
Okay.
More, so those are 3 items I just wanted to share tonight. So actually for sure, let me know. Happy to. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I forgot to potential conflicts of interest. I'm guessing there's probably none, since I don't think we have any skin in the game or any of these things on the agenda. Okay. There we go.
Good catch, Commissioner.
All right. And I think we have appointment of commissioners to subcommittees. I think we'll forego that for the time being, and we'll table that until we have other commissioners appointed, and then we'll revisit what we're doing with subcommittees and appointments.
Perfect. We did skip over number 5, election of commission officers.
Election for commission officers. We have Coleman West on.
We'll need to elect a president, a vice president, and a treasurer. And that is to be decided on 3.
Which made a motion.
There's a secretary and a treasurer, so if you wanted to make a nomination, give seconds, and then you take a vote.
I make a motion to nominate Brad Loren as our president.
A second.
No, I have to take a vote.
Okay, cool.
All in favor, say aye.
Everyone in favor, say aye. Brad's like, no.
Okay.
If you said nay, that would have been fantastic.
I'll make a motion to appoint, can I make a motion? Now that I'm president, I guess I can't, can I make a motion? Now that I'm president, in this case, president can make a motion, right? Because we don't have enough commission to, me to abstain. I'll make a motion that we appoint Carrie Hoot as vice president.
I would second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And
We also have positions of the secretary and the treasurer.
secretary treasurer, he gets two positions.
He can, or.
And I'll make a motion that we appoint
Do you have roles and responsibilities? Can I?
secretary treasurer.
You can take, we could do one and then offer that other one.
They're
to
here,
one of the
if you'd
other
like to look.
commissioners that come on board.
Okay.
Or both.
You can also do it temporarily, I mean, because your rules actually say that you should have all four, I would recommend you.
Okay, so
Put
it's,
someone in each of the positions, I mean, when you get to two, but then when you fill the other two seats, you just hit tenure all of it.
okay, right, perfect. Okay,
So to make a motion to make Albert the temporary secretary and treasurer until we have newly appointed commissioners.
I'll second that.
All right. Aye.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry.
That's it.
Well, if you ever miss, vice
All right.
president's got it.
All right. Yes, and we're gonna forego the appointment of commissioners to subcommittees until we have more commissioners.
We have a couple more that we'll need to add on to there as well.
Okay.
You have one of our commissioners sits on the board of for the museum, when we also have one that represents us with the Energy Council. So that'll be good to sort of round that out. But these are the ones that we want to definitely get done if you guys were wanting to, but waiting until we have more commissioners on, that's great.
Yeah, and we'll have a larger discussion about the advisory committees in general at that time as well. Okay, consent agenda. Approval of minutes for the commission meeting from June 1st, 2023 and June 15th, 2023 minutes for the special commission meeting from June 26th, 2023, as well as for the minutes for budget meeting from May 17th, 2023, May 25th, 2023, May 30th, 2023. Ratification of the bills in the amount of $974,055.70. Approval of the payroll for 6/20/23 in the amount of $50,109.51. Now that can be approved in a single motion, because those are considered to be pretty uncontentious items. So,
I before we pass them, the consent agenda.
and can we get a second on that?
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimously. Okay, general manager report.
Just a few things to touch on. Wasn't too long ago since we met. So we had some heavy traffic on the bridge as expected over the holiday season. This week we've been working through some employees being out sick. We also still have a vacancy up there that we're trying to get filled. Backups weren't super long, but they did occur. I also took a call today from Wenatchee Fire Dispatch, who was asking about potentially waiving tolls for first responders that are responding to the fire. Our current policy requires that we only waive tolls for emergency vehicles that have lights on. So I informed her of that policy. We have a fantastic 4th of July. We had a record number of vendors this year. It was really low key. I think it was a Tuesday. They said they took in about 2/3 of what they took last year, but they're still happy, so that was good. I think the Tuesday kind of threw a wrench in it as compared to last year. There was some discussions locally about potentially next year doing a laser light show. Just for fire safety and just from some of what I've heard, people are on both sides of that, so definitely something we can take a look at. We have received the pump out station for the marina, which is great. We've been waiting on that and we've got a bunch of voters that wanted it yesterday. So we'll start the installation on that next week. We received a Marine Board grant for that, so it took a little bit longer than it typically would have taken if we just ordered the thing and got it in. So we certainly appreciate the patience of our marine attendants. We also spoke with, sent all of our invoices over to Business Oregon for the emerging business or the emerging opportunities fund grants.
Yes.
That was for $500,000. They accepted all of those, and have sent out a disbursement for the full 500,000. So good win. I've also been continuing to work with Jetty Lights in finalizing their contract and getting that in place. So I didn't take any questions.
Where are we at with the Jetty Light contract and the protest period as it relates to that?
So finalizing it with them, nothing that affects any of the deal points that we discussed, but mostly working with Tommy to make sure that the language fits with what he's happy with and what their attorney is happy with. So that's sort of the finalizing piece of it. The protest period,
This period goes until 4:30 tomorrow.
Okay. As far as the process of the protest, any potential protests, now I understand that the general manager has kind of control over determining that.
correct.
Would it be
In the previous motion, I was given the responsibility to.
exactly?
oversee that.
So, would it be less legally, less of a problem if the commission was also involved in determining the next steps for if there is any protest?
I mean, if it's a legal risk evaluation.
From
probably-
a risk
If
standpoint.
you're asking just about the process, it's in your procurement rules right now, the general manager is your purchasing agent and would resolve things like protests and stuff like that. That's the authority that you as a commission have delegated to the general manager. So if you wanted to change that, you just need to change that delegation and take some action and sort of reinsert yourself into that process.
Okay,
Otherwise, it's the procurement rules will control, and right now, the procurement rules say that the GM will resolve the protests.
And if a protest comes up like right before the deadline, then we have to have a little extra time to review that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no prescribed time frame for resolving the protests, although they come in at 4:29 tomorrow. I mean, Jim and I will still need to resolve that. You won't do it right away and either.
and then in the meanwhile, then any contract is on hold, correct, as far as being able to operate the stern whaler or get any of that in motion?
Right now, the commission's motion was to have the general manager sign the contract after resolving any potential protests. So we don't know if there's gonna be one. That's the time frame right now. That's the cadence that would occur.
Okay. Right, commissioner reports, I guess there aren't any really commissioner reports yet, unless you would like to comment on something.
You don't sit on any subcommittees, but you definitely are active members in the community, so if there's anything.
You have anything you want to comment on, this is the time.
Well, I think one of our priorities we need to discuss is the vacant Flex 6 building, right? Is that something we can
Yeah,
discuss here?
Yeah.
I just, I know it was,
We need to get next steps on that as far as.
yeah, we just need to look at priorities and see about, I know you showed it to somebody, I think on Monday. But maybe potentially we can look at putting it back out there to advertise for a set amount of time and see what we can, who we can attract for local businesses, local manufacturers, to come in and occupy that building. Maybe offer you know, different incentives or stuff, to make it more desirable for people to come in, and then have kind of an array of options, hopefully.
Sure.
Did you ever hear anything from that one company?
Slingshot.
Yes.
And,
Okay.
we have had a couple of folks look at it in the last few days. One was another data center. I had a logistics company who was interested in coming and seeing it. I don't know what logistics means specifically, if it's just gonna be a distribution center or if there's something maybe more to it. Those are the two folks that have shown interest in it. Real US Forest Service also took a look at it. It's a lot of hoops to jump through to get Forest Service to be interested in it and to get that federal contract. And when they came and we met with them, they were pretty reluctant about our building because of the amount of space it is and the restrictions that they have and the changes that they would have to make to it. They were kind of nicely letting us know, like, yeah, you're more than welcome to keep playing if you want, but that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. I don't have a full super high for the Forest Service one. We do currently have a MOU in place with Roundhouse, right, on that particular building. So we continue to have that deal sort of in the woodwork.
Is that still, is it still applicable since it said it would be occupied by April? At that point, it's kind of fallen through.
I think that's probably some, that's our executive discussion, that'd be something we probably could discuss in executive session, get Tom's take on that.
Okay.
But it would be, that still exists, that MOU still exists.
Has there been any research into making Flex 6 more flexible for other types of
Yes.
businesses that may not need that large of a space?
So we do have the ability to, I think we still have just around $1 million, most of it we could draw down on that.
And 900.
Yeah, 900,000, that potentially we could flex that into multiple spaces. Right now it would be electrical and water for each one of those spaces.
Right.
We probably need to do the math on that, Chuck, and see what we can get this large space down to on that, and I don't want to wind up with, I think.
That'll be the big question. We had discussions in the past about that. Unfortunately, because it was a custom building, it was a little bit more expensive per square foot. And also the little bit of snafu we had with the rising interest rates because Business Oregon had a bond issue that was going to be done for us. They kept putting us off and the interest rates almost doubled. Therefore, we're financed at a higher rate, therefore making our square footage price we have to have to break even. So subdividing the building would complicate that even more because we draw down another $1 million. Now we've got smaller spaces there that are out of the norm for being able to occupy those spaces. So we're gonna have to do some number crunching and really look at, is that viable if we stick another $1 million into the building?
Right.
And then the spaces end up costing $1.50 a square foot, we're gonna be out of the market.
Right.
So,
And I don't know that we need to draw down the full million to flex that, right? So if it's something we're actually interested in, you have someone kind of take a look, it's sort of a general idea of what it would cost us to do that.
Right.
Run through the spreadsheet, see what we end up per square footage for each one of those four, but as I said, we don't want four buildings that we're priced out of, but we'll take a look. I mean, it's definitely been discussed. I don't know that there's a whole lot that hasn't been discussed around what we could do with Flex 6.
Yeah.
But that was one that was toward the top of the list for sure.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's a giant building which has very limited niche types of potential clients. So if we can expand that pool, then we have better odds.
I even threw out the idea that the building was originally designed for
Do we have to get out of
client
it first before we can put it out as an advertised?
Yeah, let's do that. I think that's
So definitely some options we need to look at on that and come up with a solution as it's costing us very close to $40,000 a month to have it sit vacant. So definitely, even if we have to offer some incentives to a business to come in there, it'll, at least then we'll have a prediction of when the bleeding will end.
Regardless of that, I still want to make sure that we're bringing in the right business for our community as well.
Absolutely.
To make sure that, the community is supported in their vision, everybody's collective vision is supported, especially for such a long-term arrangement.
Absolutely.
We also have, some offers, of people interested in purchasing the building as well. Which is not something that the previous commission, was really entertaining,
Last resort.
but that's an option.
Yeah. May have some advantages. I mean, there again, it's just looking at the numbers and looking with the advantage to freeing up $6 million in accruing debt. Would do as far as our ability to borrow and work towards other projects that problem.
Well, it sounds like we have 2.4 million untouched for construction stuff too, so that is pretty promising.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's good.
Yep.
Lots of ideas to try to come up with too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think first and foremost, we definitely need to get Flex 6 occupied.
Absolutely.
All right, that's all I have, I'm sorry.
You're
That was my report.
typically, previously, when we had subcommittees, you sit on subcommittees, you go to them, and you'll be able to sort of report back on some of the ones that you've been on. But just bringing up the things that you want to discuss, that's great. That's great. And those are all things.
And other things of interest in the community, you want to talk about fireworks and how great it was, you know, people often do that sort of thing, you know, and
Got some really good pictures.
excellent. Yeah, very good.
That's a fun show.
So, all right, business action items.
Did you guys have any commissioner reports?
I do not.
I don't really have anything. I do want to say thank you to everyone that spoke and has subsequently left, but thank you to Caroline, Denise, and Kathy for the public comments and for all of you for coming here and being here today. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right, approval to update bank signers for Umpqua Bank to remove Jess Rose, Joanne Caldwell, Dean Bump, and John Stippen as bank signers, and adding newly elected Commissioner Carrie Clute and newly elected Commissioner Albert Nance, and add the port manager as a bank signer.
So we could do a commission, or we could probably do two motions here, a motion to remove the three names, and then a motion to add the three names, and that would probably suffice for us. It's typically, all of our checks have our signature on it, right? So it takes two signatures from two commissioners or a commissioner and a general manager in order for everything to move forward. Typically, it's handy to have you guys sign them all at the meetings. Anything we get you to sign in the meeting, we do. From time to time, something pops up midweek that needs to be signed. It's helpful for me to be able to sign one, and then I have to track down one commissioner and have you guys come in. Previously, it wasn't too difficult because a lot of our commissioners were retired and around, but you all hold a day job, so it would be handy again. So I think if we made a motion to remove Jess, Joanne, and Olga, and another one. Oh, and Dean and John, sorry.
Dean Bump and John Stippen.
Right, so 5 names to remove and then 3 to add.
I make a motion to remove Jess Groves, Joanne Caldwell, Dean Bump, John Stippen, and Olga Kaganova, yes, as bank signers.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second to remove Jess Groves, Joanne Caldwell, Dean Bump, John Stippen, and Olga Kaganova as bank signers. All in favor?
I
Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Somebody would like to entertain a motion to add people. That would be-
I took the first one, you can just compare them.
motion to add myself and Albert, as well as Jeremiah, to the general manager as bank signers.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to add Carrie Clute and Albert Nance, and also our court general manager as bank signers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Determination of future commission date.
So there had been some discussion about what day commission meetings were going to be. I know Albert typically has his arcade open on Thursdays, so that may not work for him. It'd be a good time for us to sort of set that. Carrie Ann went through and looked at some of the potential possibilities for us. this room kind of determines, and its availability kind of determines when we can get in here. It doesn't have to be here, but currently I don't have any other option for good. We've tried it in the pavilion, and this is even worse than the pavilion. House 3 is fairly small if we get a large audience. So the court really doesn't have a good place right now to hold its own meetings, so we are sort of trapped here and by the calendar that they already have it exists. Is it just the Mondays that we can get, or those ones are not available?
Not available.
Okay. So not available, I think it's the last page of the packet. First Monday, second Monday, fourth Monday, second Thursday. Commission has previously met the first and third Thursdays in the month. You guys are required to meet once a month. We have met twice a month historically. So it's somewhat up to your guys' discretion on when and how often you want to meet.
Yeah, I don't see a calendar in my packet, but if Mondays are the only days out,
Okay.
then
And the second Thursday,
the second Thursday.
which is fine, so on Thursdays anyway.
Mondays are out, Thursdays are out.
So Wednesday,
Mondays aren't out. It looks
Tuesday
like
or
Monday-
Wednesday is good with me.
Is there a good reason not to do Tuesday?
I think so. I'm good with Tuesdays.
Tuesday's good.
Tuesdays?
Tuesday's fine.
Tuesdays? Did we want to stick with the first and the third Tuesdays?
First and third, yeah, it's good.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
first and third.
presume we can change that if we need to in the future anyway, so.
As long as it doesn't mess up anybody from the staff. If there's any issues.
Yeah, we should try to be thoughtful to them as well.
Totally.
So that would put our next meeting in July 8th.
July 8th,
18th.
18th, I'm sorry.
And then that would have our next one being August 1st and the 15th and so on. So
July 18th. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I guess to that, is that okay with staff and people that are showing up? Janice, are you okay with it?
Yeah, I'll be here Tuesdays.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to bring up, and I probably should have during the commissioner reports, but I didn't see it on the agenda, is to fill the 2 empty seats. I know there is a out on the court website, we're collecting letters of interest. So I think we just need to make sure that's public and set a date when we want to review those and have the decision made, because probably the sooner the better by the
Absolutely.
next
Be
meeting.
appointing
hopefully.
at the next.
yeah,
hopefully the next meeting.
I think we can set a date. We could sort of just put it as, we're going to do that on the 18th and then see what happens. We don't have,
Yes.
you know, right now I have 1, so I assume we'll have 2, 3, 4, maybe more.
Right.
But right now I just have 1.
Mhm.
But yeah, the sooner the better. The only reason that we did it now was to give sort of enough time for people to
yeah.
put their letters in, but also too, and that's why our agenda is a little bit light, right? We only want to get so much done without those other 2 folks here, so.
Right.
I think it's great, and the quicker you guys move on that, the better.
Okay.
Yeah, I
We
think
do
we
have
should
it
just
on the website.
put it out there that
on
we,
Facebook,
and our
Facebook.
intention is to appoint them at the next meeting and make that decision.
So the commission, policy is that we advertise it, we take letters of interest, and then you guys interview those candidates. And so we have them in the public session, you'll interview them, and just make a motion to appoint. And I'll start sending you those letters of interest as I get them, so you can review them as we go.
Okay,
That would be good. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, approval to upload video recordings to YouTube. Is it the best of the Port of Cascade logs?
Yeah, so we should get a motion for the Tuesday meetings,
Okay,
because moving our official meeting.
the first and third
You got the first
Tuesday.
and third Tuesdays.
I will make a motion then to change our meeting dates, same time, same place, but first and third Tuesday of every month.
I second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve first and third Tuesday of the month as our new date. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Okay,
And, the next one is approval to upload video recordings to YouTube. This one we just really needed consensus on. The previous commission, we didn't have a very good website in order to be able to do that. But to the previous commission, they never weighed in on that. It's certainly something that we would like to include. The city has a YouTube page. Carrie Ann has already gone and set it up with the assumption that you guys would probably be for that. So is that something we'd like a general consensus?
Part of the transparency.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
yeah, Netflix, the menu on Netflix is getting kind of sketchy. Definitely want some competition.
Really, the motion on that, general consensus is yes, guys.
Yes, sounds good.
And I think if Carrie, if you, Carrie Ann, if you do the, look at the recording tonight and see that it's clear and fine, I don't think we need to do pages and pages of meeting minutes either, as long as we have this as backup. I'm good with that.
And
You guys are as well.
And we'll continue to, and that's great, because it takes a lot of workload off of Carrie Ann for other things. It's fine. She did a lot of duties, so when she spends 2 or 3 days doing that, it's pretty rough.
Right.
But with that, we will work really hard to see what we can do to get the sound at its best quality. And if it requires to purchase some more equipment or whatever we got to do to get this so it works great every time, all the time, that would be awesome. So
There's also a lot of transcription services, so if we do find out that we need it for some reason, we can still save you a ton of time by looking into those particular things.
Because we need to ask Tommy if we can do that and not have written minutes anymore, because the
Yeah,
auditor.
there would still be minutes,
Part of
just
the audit.
more high level minutes with the backup of the YouTube. So they would have minutes with all of our motions and approvals written in the minutes, but not word for word of every single thing somebody said. And then it would point to the YouTube link to watch the whole video.
And we can always do a refresher about sort of what the minimum requirements of the minutes are. And then we can, I think it's a good question to ask auditors too, that if they're reviewing it, is this something that we can always do more than what's minimally required, it's gonna be helpful to the auditors.
Definitely don't want to replace the minutes. We just want to make it a little easier for Carrie Ann.
All right. So let's take care of, next, we have an executive session under ORS 91926602E, real property negotiations. We're going to adjourn our, no, not adjourn.
no, we'll just take a recess.
Take a recess
Yeah.
for about 5 minutes and then we'll,
Everybody clear out?
thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Rich, you want to take? Okay, we're back. This is public comments, our local representative, Jeff Eldridge.
Board President, Vice President, Commissioner, for the record, my name is Jeff Elfridge. I'm State Representative for House District 52. Thank you for letting me be here. I do know Mark Johnson gave probably a brief or pretty detailed overview about the Bridge of the Gods, that the funding wasn't available. I do sit on, so let me just kind of go back. My committees are, I'm Vice Chair of Housing and Homelessness. I sit on the Transportation Committee, Semiconductors, and also the Ways and Means Public Safety portion of the full subcommittee of the full committee of Public Safety or the Ways and Means. So all that said, that's the Money Committee, and the other 3 are policy committees. For my portion on the transportation, we did put a bill together, Senator Bonham and myself, that we had for Bridge of the Gods and the River Bridge. And that was getting a lot of traction. We put that out first at the beginning of the session. It was kind of a comedy show was going on because they had a PowerPoint up at the Bridge of the Gods, and they started talking about the Fort Hood River, and we got all kind of messed up. It was rather entertaining to watch that, rewatch that. But we had good momentum going. At one point, Chair McLean, who has been chairing the Transportation Committee, wanted to create a bridge bill, and so the Burnside Bridge was added to that. And so we had the Burnside Bridge You had the Bridge of the Gods and the Port of the River Bridge. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, the funding didn't come through. You know, we asked several different times that $6 million, at least 5 million goes to another project. And then that was part of a transportation package that was in the Christmas tree bill. But the commitment from the chair is that we're going to revisit this and figure out how we can get $6 million allocated back in. No promises, but there is another Christmas tree bill that happens at the end of session for the short session. So that is my job, is to go back and see what we can do to make sure we can get some money to you guys and match the Washington side, where Senator King's been diligently working on his end. I've been trying to do it on our end. Just didn't quite match up like we thought it would. But I can say I'm happy that we got 20 million for the Hood River Bridge, because that thing's gonna fall over at some point. It's gonna be once you dip it, go, then it goes away. So, you know, that was a good start for us. And then there'll be general fund, or there'll be lottery bonding, I believe, coming in late 2024, early 2025 to finish that project. But we're gonna try to get you guys going with what you need, so you bring those federal dollars at the end from there. So kind of a quick rundown for the rest of the session for me. Obviously Sine Die, the end of session was last Sunday, and two Sundays ago. There we go. It's been kind of a long week and trying to recover, but some of the things that kind of affect the community affect us, I think, a lot here. Fentanyl was one of the drugs that was kind of left off out of 110. The nuance of that was you couldn't charge somebody if they held pills that had fentanyl in it, that was only by power weight or grams of weight. And so you couldn't charge anybody as a charging instrument unless they had it in a powder form and not in a pill form. So we were able to go back and kind of rework that a little bit. I was one of the chief sponsors of that bill, and we were able to get that passed. Measure 110 is a disaster for every community, because we've seen that drugs and alcohol affect our communities, and that creates the homeless issues, I believe, a lot of the times, the mental health issues that are part of that. So that's the hope, is we can rework 110 and actually put some people back into drug possession, but at least we're able to get the misdemeanor level out of a fentanyl charge, which is just killing people on a daily basis in our country and our communities. So that was one of the big ones we got out of that. I believe one of the other things that kind of came out of this is the vice chair. I worked on the housing homelessness portion, which was the big bill came out of there was 2001, which was a lot of getting homeless issues addressed and dealt with. Funding for shelters and ongoing beds. But part of the big that I was able to win for our community, especially the House District, was $5 million for workforce housing on farm housing for our fruit growers. So if you don't know kind of how it works, you got OSHA and other groups come in and say, because of the smoke and the heat, you have to have air conditioning in, you have to take the panels, bigger panels, electric windows, and all these different regulations that are unlike when you build a house. There's a lot less regulations when you build a house versus on local farm housing. And so that $5 million is going to be grants for our local fruit growers and all growers throughout the state, that those will be grants to be issued, so they don't have to use their dollars. They're trying to make the two nickels to rub together to get some, feed their families, use those dollars for that as the grants. And really the fruit growers are the only people that I know that buy everything at retail and have to sell it wholesale. So that's kind of a problem at that. So when they sell it wholesale, you know, somebody's making money, they're not making it. So that was a good one. A lot of other good things came out of housing, the housing. Just kind of touch on, no, I lost my notes here. Give me a second. So one of the things that we are kind of a desert for childcare in our communities, especially after the porch. And so with that said, Senate Bill 599 was introduced by Senator Steiner, and I was chief co-sponsor with her on that. What that allows for is having childcare facilities within rental homes and rental apartments and type, but the landlord still has the ability to make sure they have insurance, but it's incumbent upon the person that's creating that business in there. That's just another way that we can get people back to work, make sure they have good quality childcare, because it's either choosing between food on the table and staying home, or, you know, trying to go to work, and it's tough right now.
Right.
There's a lot of jobs available, but a lot of those jobs aren't, you know, family wage jobs. So we're trying to work on that. Where that's going, that came through. So the other one that was kind of interesting was Senate Bill 1013, which requires or allows people to rent RV spaces on the side of their house, and so they can actually be here, and it's issued by the county. And what it allows for is people that may have a kid that comes back home and comes from college, and can't build an auxiliary dwelling unit, but it's actually has to be an actual RV that can be moved off of. And they were allowed to be able to have that sitting on the property and allow for that, so it creates
Kind of
more
a
housing.
tiny home bill, wasn't it?
It wasn't tiny,
I
no,
saw
it's
that
not
they
tiny,
passed
tiny.
something about.
That was a different tiny home, that was something different, but
Okay,
that was more manufacturing, and that was Representative Marsh's bill that came out of the manufacturing part for the tiny homes, that they're building those out of Port of Portland right now. They have some space up there. So there's a lot of those things going on. Other wins in the district that we got, which are things I think are important here, about $42,000 for the courthouse in Hood River to get that planning, and that phase started there, because that courthouse is in need of repair. Sound and lighting for that, the Dallas Civic Auditorium, which is kind of a nice little thing, you know, they got the Civic Auditorium is big for the arts, and having people go there and in the community center, they'll get lights and sound for them. Talk about that. Oh, the other one was some campus renovations for student safety and success at the Colony Gorge Community College. They got $5.5 million to go to them, and some more money to go for their aviation mechanics program, which was really good with that. So, and then I kind of want to take a little right-hand turn here. You guys are talking about Flex Space 6, I believe it was. And I sat on council here many years ago with Brad and others when Thunder Island came in and gave their presentation, and we figured out an incubator space down there at the actual locks themselves. And so always be mindful of those things. Those are, I think, good things to think about as a commission, having those ideas, and that may bring those businesses that we want into the community that way. And you can see how they've thrived since then. You know, they brought a lot of stuff in here, so it's been really good for that, to see the community grow that way.
100%.
And so with that said,
Well,
I'll
and that's something we could look at with like the 2.4 million lottery funds that we have too.
Yeah, just those, I think, those are opportunities to help small businesses grow and get a foothold somewhere, and those.
Unfortunately, Flex 6 is a 43,000 square foot space, so I don't know if it would do well as an incubator, but.
We work with the community college and their new $5.5 million for the school up there.
we did,
Well, it goes by the airport.
we have discussed the idea of a bottling and distribution center, cold storage and distribution. I touched base with Rudy Kellner from Freeman, just threw the idea out there. Is there a need? Could a consortium of kombucheries, cideries, distilleries, you know, all over the gorge, they've all become victims of their own success and are very short of bottling and distribution and cold storage space. Would that be a potentially viable business for the port? And he seemed to think, yes, it would. So we might look into that, see if that's something that would be viable, what the investment would take, get a couple of people that could give us a little more information about it, see if that's even something that might be viable. I don't know.
If you have any questions about legislative stuff that was going on, I'd be happy to entertain those things.
Yeah.
It's been running process, my second rodeo going through there, but we got some good wins. I mean, I think I got a total of like $62 million total for the district.
That's awesome.
What can you tell us about the Daniel project?
It's a bridge over, I think, Highway 26. I mean, 97, sorry. 97, yeah. I don't know where it from, that was not discussed, so that was not ever on the radar sitting committee, but I wasn't always in the committee meetings because I was in the housing stuff, and we had long nights, so I don't have any direct information on that. You go to Ben, look at 690, you go over the top of 97.
Yeah, thank you for all of your help and everything you've done for the district. I will say, I've talked to a lot of people within, you know, the city that we have here, and losing that money was a big punch in the gut. And I think that a lot of people here in town definitely feel like we're forgotten in many respects. And that definitely didn't kind of alleviate that. So thank you for all the hard work that you've done. If there's anything we can do to continue helping you to bring stuff to our community, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I sat here, or did the same thing. It was tough being on that side of the table, was trying to get stuff in here, you know, we were told, no, you can't do this. It's not what we want to see in the gorge. It's like, just stop. We know what we want to do in our communities. Let us do it, and, you know, give us the reins and let's go. And so I will always be an advocate for Cascade Law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He was here in Cascade Locks before Cascade Locks was cool.
2005.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
It's the first home in Shaw.
Now we go recess, but we're there.
Yes, now we're going to recess and go into executive session.
See you all.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Quickly, it's up to you.
Okay, we're gonna be going.
Hold on.
Oh.
We're gonna bring everybody back.
Okay, we're gonna be going into executive session under ORS 192.6602E, real property negotiations. Also, ORS 192.6602F, discussion of exempt public records. And also 192.6602H, legal counsel regarding litigation or likely litigation. Okay, we're back in regular session.
Separate discussion, after the person certification sort of on the objection period. And how we evaluate the objections to the awarding indicator, J like the contract. So after that, it sounded like the commission wanted to play a role, at least in going through whatever the objection was, if we receive one. So I think a motion is probably in order for that. And that will direct me to bring people, Tommy will, and I will both evaluate that, but to bring you guys into the loop on that.
All right, so with that, I want to make a motion that we modify the commission's earlier motion of June 29th and direct the general manager to consult with the commission as part of and prior to making a final resolution of any protests of the commission's authorization of the concession agreement with Jetty Light for operation of the stern whaler. I further move that we reaffirm the portion of the commission's prior motion that requires a resolution of any protests prior to executing the agreement.
Oh, I have to second, I second this. You can't as president?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, okay.
Okay, have been, motion and second has been made, to modify the, motion for, the Jetty Light contract on protest period. And, to include the, council or the commission in, this process. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Well, with that, is there anything else to come before the commission? With that, we're adjourned.